Hey y'all, welcome to 8-Bit Gospel. This is another one of those videos where we talk about the good news of Jesus Christ and apply it to our lives. How do we love God and love other people? How do we take His truths and His word, and what are some building blocks, some bricks, some small pieces that we can put on top of one another and grow in our faith and in our love of Jesus and in our obedience to Him? What are some of those things? So we're primarily doing that through the verse of love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your might, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And so with that in mind, I wanted to talk today about listening. How do we listen well? Because when we listen to people, really listen, not just hear, but when we listen to people, we're actively loving them. When you listen to people, you're loving that person because you're giving your attention. You're giving and investing your time and your care in what another person has to say. And when you share that, you're also listening for what do they care about. Generally, people will share things about their life if they genuinely believe that the person near them is listening. People have so many stories. There's so much you can learn from other people just by sitting down and asking them, so, like, how's life? Or tell me about yourself. You know, some people generally, we just don't know how to handle that question because it happens so little. But when we listen, we love. Okay? So how can we listen? There are a few principles of listening. We can't unpack it all right now, but we're just going to talk about some basics, some of the basics, the pieces of listening well. And the first is you get what you're focused on. So your attention when you listen really matters. Do you know that over 80% of communication is not done with your words, but is actually done with your body language? Over 80%. So even if you rewind back through the rest of this video and see how I'm talking, I'm using my hands. I'm embodying the things that I'm trying to say because I'm trying to convey something that matters to me and that I think can communicate what I'm trying to say better. So, for instance, if I said something like, yeah, this person likes me, or this person likes me, right? There's a difference in the way that it's said, in the facial expressions, in the body language, the shoulders down, the shoulders back. Like, gosh, there's so much there. When someone is speaking, they're embodying their emotions and their thoughts and what they're talking about. So when someone really cares, generally they lean forward. When someone's relaxed or comfortable, they'll lean back sometimes. So when someone's sitting on the very, very edge of their seat, then they seem to be a little bit more concerned or nervous or uptight about something. So you can hear even through seeing. Isn't that weird? So how do we listen well? The first is pay attention to body language. Pay attention to if someone is communicating or what they're communicating through their body language. But it also matters how and what you're communicating through your own body language. Because you can, as we've already established, communicate without any words. How you sit and listen actually matters in a conversation. You may be wondering why people don't listen to what you say, or why people seem to not have much to say when they're talking to you. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes it matters because of your own body language. And just by shifting that, you may find that people share more of their lives with you, and you feel more connected with the friends that you have or with your family members when you start to apply this, when you start to try to love people through your body language, right? So when you listen, it matters that you're paying attention to them, that you're looking at them. It's sometimes you're not able to do that, like if you're driving in a car and you obviously aren't going to look at the person while you're driving. That's a recipe for a crash. But if you're facing towards them, or if you're nodding your head at points that make sense, like nodding your head at places that don't make sense, say someone saying, I was walking down the street and then I saw a dog and then that dog bit me. Right. Then you're like, oh, this person's not listening to me. Right? You're like, they obviously didn't hear the punchline. That was not a good thing. And they're nodding just like everything's fine and normal. It doesn't work that way. So the body language you use really matters. Another point about your attention, and then we'll stop for the video today. We can do more if you are interested in this and it's gelling, but is when you believe that you fully understand something, or that you don't think that that thing matters, you stop paying attention. And so if you struggle with really listening to people, or people say that you don't listen, or you aren't hearing, or you seem to always get into arguments over small details and don't seem to be able to communicate with someone accurately, sometimes it's because you think you understand what they're saying, or you believe that what they're saying doesn't matter as much as what you have to say, or something like that. And so you check out until the time when they stop to take a breath, and then you can share something that you have to say that matters. So you show by that you're not actually listening, and you miss really connecting with the person because you think that you understand what they're saying, or you don't think what they're saying matters. You're not quite loving that person if you discount the things that they're saying and don't listen for what they're actually saying. Sometimes people communicate something that's different than the words that they say. I remember I was sitting in a counseling session, and I had a couple with me, and they were recounting one of their worst fights when something, because of the fight they had, just they've been so wounded from then on, and it was really difficult. And I had both of them share their story, and one of them said, when I said this, I saw the look on their face, and it was the worst face I'd ever seen in my life. Right? When I say that, it's like, oh gosh, why would you ever say something like that? And you could tell that their spouse kind of like leaned back and like got really uncomfortable and really tense. And so I said, but the look on their face, like they were so sad when they said it. I was like, so when you said that, do you mean that you were realizing that you had really hurt them, and you had used something that you knew was a vulnerable spot to harm them, and you knew what you'd done and you could see it on their face? And they were like, yeah, that. And it was like their spouse just leaned forward and was like, and said almost without even thinking, oh, I never knew that you actually cared like that. It was a really cool moment. And that was because I was paying attention to that body language and knew that what he said wasn't actually what he meant. Does that make sense? So anyway, I wish I had a way to kind of give an example of active listening. That's what it's called, is active listening instead of just a passive listening. I wish we had an example or some way that we could show you how to practice that in your own life. Nuts.
Oh.
Whoa. What's up, man?
Okay. I guess
You just like teleported.
I guess Animal Crossing can wait.
We're just crossing paths here. Yeah. So anyway, I was telling these people how to listen better, how to do some active listening. And I was wondering if we could have some way to practice that. So I figured I'd just snap and see what happened.
Do you want me to get my guitar, or not that kind of listening?
No,
okay.
Just like a conversation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Well, how you been?
Super unrehearsed. And that's totally fine, man. Like, yeah, I'm doing good. Doing well.
Cool.
I've had a day where I just kind of went to work and then talked to my sister today, and and came here.
This is your sister that lives.
She lives in Canada, in Vancouver.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They work at a church up there, right? Or started a church.
Yeah, they're trying to church plant.
Okay.
Cool. And which has been a little difficult with the COVID-19 and all that stuff going on.
Sure. They have that in Canada too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah, she was a little bit bummed because she was going to go to a wedding for her best friend, but the Canadian border, Canada and the Canadian border, Canada closed their Canadian border.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah,
Gotcha.
they closed it, and so they weren't able to go, but that's kind of been the main effect, other than
Sure.
not being able to go to libraries and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
So, but
Okay.
other than that, they're spending time in their little basement and enjoying
cool.
life.
Have you been up there? to
I
Canada?
have. I was able to visit and go to. We went to Vancouver is where they're at, and then we drove through, saw Glacier Mountain, saw some parks up there,
That'd be cool.
and then drove down into Montana from there. It was like a really sweet drive.
Okay. I've never been to Montana. That's cool. I almost got stuck in Canada one time though. That's a true story.
Really?
Yeah.
Have I
So
heard this? I don't think I've heard this.
I don't know. So it was. We went on a mission trip to Detroit. I've been on a handful of mission trips to Detroit, and Detroit's right across the Canadian border. And we went across one day, I think 2 days, to do a worship service on a Sunday morning, and then I don't remember. Maybe we were like passing out flyers or something for the worship service the day before, something like that. But it was mostly youth that went on the trip with us. Our youth pastor had the rental car, but he didn't go. My dad went, and then all of the youth, myself included, who was probably 21, 22 years old, that had passports so they could legally go across and back. And so we did whatever we were doing there, and then we were on our way back, coming back in, and they all, we gave them all our passports to cross back over, whatever, and they were like, yeah, do you have any kind of written consent form, whatever, that says you're allowed to take these kids across and back or whatever? And we were like,
Wait, you were in Canada at this point when you had?
we
when they
went
told you
to
about that?
Canada and came back in the same day.
Right.
So they let us in, no problem.
That's so weird.
They let us in, no
well.
problem. So coming back, we didn't have, I guess, written consent from there. And so they went through and called all of their parents, and only one of them answered. But it was the last one too. The last one answered. So they took the rental car, which was not in my dad's name, even though we drove it, and they tore it to pieces. It was interesting.
I'm sure they're bringing contraband sort of thing.
We sat in a waiting area for hours. It was interesting.
And now you got a story.
Yeah, and that's the only time I've ever been to Canada.
Welcome
I
to
may
Canada.
not go back. I may not.
Well,
go back.
that was the U.S. border folks, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not Canada.
was.
The Canadians are like, come on in, y'all.
They're fine. We'll take all the people we can have.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
It was. It's just. I will not forget that story. Will not forget that story.
Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
cool. So I wanted to ask you too about camp. What?
Oh, cool.
What?
Let's do it.
What about camp this year are you most looking forward to? Is it just being able to go do something together?
I am looking forward to that. Yeah.
I'm pumped about it. I'm ready.
It's gonna be sick. They have axe throwing, which I'm really stoked.
They didn't have
about.
that last year, did they?
They did not. No. So they have axe throwing. I'm really stoked about that.
Okay.
So I used to throw axes with my brother.
Okay.
And
Luke?
knives. Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
I'm ready, man.
So I think that's probably my main thing. I'm also looking forward to swimming a little bit, which I don't generally swim much in the lake, but I'm gonna try to do that this week, this time around.
Sure.
So
I think I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that the lower price this year will hopefully be an easier entry point for people to come. So you have a lot more kids
It's fewer
that want
days,
to come.
shorter,
So,
less price, but maybe so.
I'm pumped. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Camp's fun. Camp's one of my all-time favorite things. If I could lead worship for a youth camp every week, that would be my dream job. I would love that.
Yeah.
Love it. So,
I know that's true. I mean, you've told me that a lot. So, yeah, we're excited.
Cool.
So, if we can reflect back through the conversation a little bit,
okay.
if you can remember
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. No. When I was sharing about my sister, what were some of the thoughts you had going through your head when you were listening? because I felt like you were listening pretty well to me. But
No pressure.
yeah. But like, what were you thinking? Were you applying any of those things that we talked about
Sure.
before, or does that kind of just happen naturally?
Yeah, I was trying to connect the dots because you have definitely
things.
mentioned her and that church plant before, but it's been a while since I've heard you
Right.
talk about it, and so it was like trying to connect the dots and remember what I was supposed to have remembered.
Sure, yeah.
And make sure I'm not making up stuff.
But when you did that, that really helped me continue because I
Sure.
knew that you were listening and I knew that you were trying to track with what I was saying and even that you were prompting for more. And that means a lot. So it helps me start to share. Because when a conversation begins, just as it did before, we were kind of like, all right, I mean, it was unscripted for a purpose that
Sure.
we were trying to figure out, okay, well, what are we talking about? And trying to engage in some way. So I also heard a story from you. And when I was like, okay, my attention waned a little bit at the beginning and I was just like Detroit and then, oh, wait, how did they get into Canada? Wait, now they're on the other side of the, I don't quite follow. So I asked the question.
Sure.
Because I was coming back and I was like, wait, where are they in the story? I've lost track. So I asked the question.
Canada.
And then after that, right. But after that, then I was much more engaged in the rest of the story that you were saying.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
apparent honesty. But but it happens, you know. And so when that happens, then I ask the question and we figured it out.
Yeah.
So, but and then you shared your story about Canada. Yeah.
What a story it is.
What a story it is. So, yeah, and we get to see some of those things in action and feel heard and listened to, and then also we got to share a little bit about camp. So there you go. We're gonna have more of that coming. So
Yeah, cool.
all right, dude. Well, thanks for getting my snap. Just thought of that.
Can I go now?
Yes. Peace out, y'all.